beautiful souls. I am so excited to dig in today. We're in for a real treat. I have Joe Hoye in the space, and he's going to be sharing how he built this incredible business as this 30-year-old man, right? Helping women over 40 ditch their diets, gain control of their midsection, all while living a life that they enjoy. And here's what's so powerful about all of this. His clients get amazing results. And they're happy people as they're working with him. They're not just like, I look great, but I'm totally unhappy. Like they're actually deeply enjoy and they have all of this vitality. I just can't wait to dig into your special method for what you do, Joe, as you have built this incredibly successful business. And so before we dig in, so he's this incredible business owner. He, owns Hoye Fit, and he's living his passion and purpose, making a massive impact on the world. So, Joe, thank you so much for being here. I just cannot wait to dig in with you.
Thank you for having me, Christina. And gosh, I couldn't agree more with everything you said. I'm absolutely living my passion. And I think the most important thing that you just said is that our clients are happy
Yeah.
as they're either getting to their goal or living at their goal. And that should go without saying because your goal should always include happiness. But a lot of times, I think in my industry of weight loss and health, people think that they have to do this through unhappy means of terrible diets or terrible lifestyles. And that's so backwards.
I completely agree with you. I completely agree. And I think I did that for a little while. I actually had an eating disorder in college. So I know that for me, it was not a happy journey for a while where it was like, I have to be restrictive. I have to do it this certain way. But a lot of that was trauma based, like why I was doing it the way that I was doing. So I had to do some deep healing to be able to fall back in love with my body. And then through that, I found, my own journey with what felt good, what felt joyful, what felt like it honored my body. And so I love that you brought all of this together and really culminated that for this woman that's in her 40s that may be moving into menopause, perimenopause, or beyond. So I'm curious, as this 30-year-old man who's chosen to support this specific group of people, women over 40, how did you fall into this? How did this become suddenly your calling? It kind of called you into it. How did you fall into this? Because you're incredibly powerful at what you do, but what was the thing that called you into it?
Yeah, I like the words you choose because I didn't exactly choose this career. A lot of times I'll say that I was chosen for it. And it's really a three-part story. And back when I was 13 years old, I had two stepbrothers, and every once in a while they'd be over at their mom's, at their other parents, and sometimes they'd be at my house. And when they were gone, at that time, it was just myself and my mom. And growing up, she was the only strong, consistent role model that I had to look up to and to figure out how I should kind of grow up.
Mhm.
And at that time, I was kind of headed down a bad path. Number one, I was starting to get picked on in school, which was creating a really bad mindset and quality of life for me. And number two, I was just making the wrong choices. And she saw both of those and she tried to redirect me to another direction, being the consistent, strong role model she was. So one day after school, after she gets home from work, after my homework, after dinner, she goes, Joe, what are you doing for the rest of the night? And it's like, I don't know. Like everything's done. I don't have much to do. She's like, awesome. I'm going to the gym. I'd love it if you'd come with me. And to me, that was the obvious answer for that was yes, because I was not super confident. I was getting picked on. I wanted to have confidence and kind of end that cycle. And the gym made perfect sense for me. It's like, well, guys that go to the gym get muscular. They're more confident. They're healthier. That sounds great to me. So I walked in and I fell in love with it on day one.
Mm.
And I started going, gosh, 6 to 7 days a week, which now I know isn't the answer, but 6 to 7 days a week from the age of 13 all the way up to 18. And I tried my hardest to build that confidence and build my body and build my health to where I wanted it. And none of it worked. I graduated high school about 5 to 10 pounds heavier than I was at 13. So in 5 years, I gained 5 to 10 pounds of muscle. I was still super skinny, still getting picked on, still not confident. And at that time, I was pursuing a career in surgery.
Mm.
So from there, inside of college, I start taking these courses of anatomy, physiology, nutrition, kinesiology, things that the body needs in order to create change. But at that
Mhm.
same time, I was 18 and I just entered college and I had more freedom. So I started to party and drink and treat my body poorly. And I did start to finally gain weight. I went from that 145 up to my goal weight of about 190 or 195 pounds. But I didn't stop there because since I was partying, I was gaining way too much fat, having way too many calories, not treating my body right. And I ballooned up to 225. And so then I had a new problem. I switched, I moved from high school to college, so I was not getting picked on anymore, but I still didn't have confidence. I was still unathletic and kind of goofy. And so all of that stayed true. But now instead of being skinny, I was overweight. And
Mhm.
so I finally ditched the partying. I stopped drinking. I dialed in on everything I learned inside these courses. And I finally changed my body to where I wanted to be. I was healthy. I was strong. I was fit. I was confident. And people could tell because I grew up in a small town. So everyone started asking, Joe, how'd you go from skinny to overweight to where you are now? I want to achieve your result. And enough people had asked to where I had a light bulb moment of number one, I think I can help people avoid what I experienced and bring them into a confident state. And number two, I think I can make a couple dollars doing it because I have so many people asking. So I put together these 6 to 8 week long weight loss challenges online, and I started marketing it just in the usual way that I talk, advertising on Facebook and Instagram. And lo and behold, I started to get people signing up, but I never really looked at the names. I was just like, awesome. We have 10 people, we have 20 people, we have 30 people. And in the first day of that first online challenge, I opened up my computer, log into Zoom, look at all the faces staring back at me as I'm about to start coaching them. And I realized none of them are like me. I thought that I wanted to help people like me, skinny men or overweight men, get into a confident body. But the people I attracted looked way more like my mom. They were women 40, 50, 60 years old coming to me for help. And I panicked. I was like, well, what happened? What did I do to attract this crowd? And I think what happened is I just grew up around my mom and her friends, and I learned to communicate and talk in a way that resonated with them. So I naturally drew them in. And so that panic on day one turned into a ton of excitement and fun on the eighth week when I created all these results for them. They crushed it. And I had a blast with them. We were all laughing and connecting and everything like that. And so I just rolled with it. So that's like the first two parts of the story is number one, I wanted to give back to my mom because I understood that if I could change a mom's life, a lady in midlife's life, then that's going to trickle down into the rest of her household. And then I can impact people like me and the husband or the other kids or whatever it may be. So if I'm going to change one life, I want that life to change others. Number two, I just had fun. I resonated with these people and they got me. And so I rolled with it. But then the third part of the story is, like I said, at the time I was pursuing a career in surgery. I graduated, I got my first job. Now I'm not a surgeon, I never was. What my job was a surgical technologist. And inside the small hospital I was at, my role was to help the doctor do just about everything they couldn't do with their own two hands. And so I was in the thick of it. I was learning a ton, and they thought that it was a great idea to take the one male in this role, because there were seven of us, take the one male in this role and stick him inside the OB and GYN based rooms. And so once again, I get pushed into this demographic, and
Mhm.
here I am learning 40 hours a week plus on-call emergency surgery about the female body, how it operates, and I'm getting all this knowledge from doctors right next to me, 8 hours a day, and they spent their entire career gaining this knowledge and now they're passing it to me. So in my main job, I'm basically just collecting information to apply it to my side job, which is coaching. And so now that's the third part of my story. Like, I want to give back to my mom and impact people's lives like that. I have fun doing it. And number three, I understand their body in a massive way so I can create massive results. And so fast forward 6 years now, we've only gotten better at it and grown from there.
Mm. This is so powerful because I think so often people put a lot of pressure on their purpose. They're like, I have to know my one purpose for being here. Like, I have to figure it out. And we're actually being given breadcrumbs, like little breadcrumbs, and we're meant to follow them when they feel exciting or when they're bringing joy, right? Exactly as you were just saying, that number two point, like I had fun, like I had fun doing it. That's quite literally your soul telling you it's in alignment with you, right? Like we feel that expanded feeling. We want to lean in. And so it's so powerful. So just to take off some of that pressure of the person that's like, I need to find my purpose right now. Like, I hate what I'm doing, but I don't know what I'm meant to do. Follow the breadcrumbs. Start like your higher self, your soul is giving you pieces of the puzzle, and it won't make sense until it suddenly makes complete sense. Exactly as you're telling your story right now, where you're like, whoa, had I not been placed in that situation where I was doing surgery on all female bodies, really understanding their anatomy, that might not have then led me to this experience where all of a sudden I was attracting people like my mother, where I was like, whoa, like I'm just resonating with this audience. And I think so, above all else, you're helping people heal their body. You're a healer, like
Mm,
it's like we can call it like coach, fitness coach, whatever it is, but you're healing people,
yep.
and it matters. Safety matters in that type of container. Like, especially in the body, like we have to feel safe to be able to release things like weight, right? Because I think a lot of why we store that weight is from trauma, from fear, from, we're kind of creating a barrier between us and the world, right? I've studied like the energetics of the body.
Yep.
And so, what I think is so powerful about you is that you create a safe space for women to almost unravel and release the burdens of the things that they've been carrying through a fun way. That's one of the most powerful ways to heal. It doesn't all have to be so heavy. Like, we can actually laugh while we're doing it too. And so I think that's so beautiful that you're combining all of this into one, that you're making working out and eating healthy and the lifestyle of all of this fun. So I just wanted to mirror that back to you. That's so powerful for people that are desiring to create something similar to you. Like, that is a secret sauce. Like, follow the breadcrumbs and have fun doing it.
Fun is everything. I
It
mean,
is.
you cannot go through life without having fun because whatever it is you're doing is not going to last if you don't enjoy it. And so,
Exactly.
whether we're talking about passion right now or for my clients, they need to like what they're eating, they need to like what they're doing, they need to like their life. And if they like their life and they can get closer to their goal simultaneously, that's the secret sauce right there.
Mm, yeah. It kind of brings me to, if you could even think about like your deepest level of why. I think you kind of like tapped into it, like to help the mother so that she can help her family, like the trickle down effect. But is that your deepest level of why? Or is there anything else that comes to mind when you think about like, why this? Why lean in? Why has this become my purpose? Like, when you think about that deep level of who you're impacting and why it matters, I'm curious if anything else
Yeah.
comes to mind.
It's evolved, and you might not like my first answer, but I think you'll like my second. Um,
Love it.
my so I had a lot of doubt in my life,
Hmm.
both from myself and then from other people. And the doubt from other people came from people that were unkind to me, and it also came from people that should have been my biggest encouragers, but they were actually my biggest discouragers. And
Totally.
so I, it began because I wanted to prove everyone wrong.
Hmm.
Every single person, whether it was family members or friends, I would tell them what I wanted to do, and they would tell me either I couldn't do it or it was a dumb idea. And both of those were my biggest fuel in the beginning because I was like, okay, I see something you don't, and I'm going to prove you wrong because you should be supporting me and I want you to support me. And so now all those people do. And I've moved past that. I've moved on to more of a positive fuel because that was definitely a negative fuel. Now, man, it's just addicting. Like when you change someone's life,
Yes.
it is so good. And I've been doing, like I said, I've been doing this for 6 years. Like I've helped people lose over 100 pounds multiple times. Generally, it's between 30 to 80 pounds, but will help anywhere. But when someone loses any amount of weight, number one, their health transforms, but number one, their mindset and their spirit transforms, which is
Mm.
massive to me. And then the other thing, like you said, is I wanted to give back to people like the younger version of Joe. And I'll have clients that they'll private message me and they'll be like, Joe, I just want to let you know that on our live call today, my son came up and he was you saw him poking me, and I didn't want to tell you why on there because I didn't want to embarrass him, but he was asking me in my ear, he's like, is that Joe? Is that the guy that you watch? Like, can I talk to him? And so I've impacted their sons' lives and they're
Yeah.
going to the gym. I've bought in my clients' sons' gym memberships just to get them going. Like
Mm.
it's just rewarding is what I'm getting at.
Mm. So true. And I almost want to like flip that first answer on its head, because yes, you were proving them wrong, but I almost feel like underneath that, you were proving yourself right.
Mhm.
Like, the big thing about that is what I always think about is, if no one around me gets it, that's how I know that it's definitely mine. because I'm not being swayed by anyone else. This is no one else's idea. No one else gets it. So now I know for a fact that it's definitely mine. And I meant to go after that, even if the people around me don't get it.
I've never thought of that. I like that
Yeah.
because deep down I did believe I was right.
Hmm.
And maybe I just wanted to prove myself right. Thank you for that. That was good.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I think what I really want to breathe into the space is there's going to be a lot of people, especially the people that are closest to us, that won't get what we're doing. That happened with me. That happened with you. So anyone that's listening in that's like, oh my gosh, like my sisters don't get it. My friends don't get it. They all think I'm crazy. Like they're like, just get the 9 to 5. That's safe. Stop doing what you're doing. You're putting yourself out there. It's making me uncomfortable. Like, let that be okay because you're witnessing their limiting beliefs, not
Yep.
yours. So continue to follow what lights you up. And at some point, exactly as Joe was saying, and exactly as my own experience has been, they'll get it. The people that didn't get it will suddenly get it when everyone else does. And it's like, cool. But at that point, it's the sprinkles on top because you're like, I don't actually need them to get it. I already get it. It feels so good. So I witnessed this in my own life where I was like, I no longer need the validation from everyone else to do what I'm doing. When I receive it, it's the sprinkles on top of the sundae. Like, thank you. And I already know that. I'm not waiting or holding out for you to say, oh, that was amazing. That was so cool. It's like, thank you. It doesn't land the way that it used to. It used to fill a void. And now it's like, thanks, I know. So I think that's a really empowering place to be when we follow what lights us up. And then suddenly people are like, whoa, then they lean in. But don't wait for them to lean in now. Lean in on yourself.
That's so true. And gosh, man, that's just so accurate. Like now when people are like, Joe, you're doing great. I'm like, yeah, I know. Thank you, but I know.
Exactly.
And I don't need to prove it to anyone anymore. And I think for anyone listening, like if you want to take a nugget out of this little conversation, I think that as long as your intentions are good, that piece needs to be there. As long as
Yeah.
your intentions are good, when you get pushback, that means you need to go harder.
Mm.
That, like, if I understood that in the beginning, I'd be light years ahead of where I am today.
Mm. Yeah. Like keep going.
Hmm.
Even when people don't get it, that's your cue to just be like, okay, if there's a part of me that has fear, heal that within myself. It doesn't matter what anyone else is thinking. Heal that within myself and keep going. Calm my nervous system as I'm expanding. That's a big part of like
Hmm.
business growth. Let me normalize this level of success. Let me normalize the fact that no one gets it while I'm doing it. Let me normalize the fact that it's okay to go for it even when XYZ don't get it. When we can get our nervous system and our body on board, that has been a game changer in my business. Even like price points shifting, things like that. Like if we're increasing our pricing, our body needs to be on board when we're sharing that too. So like when we say it, we're not like, ooh, what am I thinking? People buy based on energy, right? And so if you believe in the value of what you bring and you are in from a body perspective, so on board with like the value of that and the energetic exchange of that, the money, the price point, then people are like, yeah, that feels normal. I want to lean in too. So super
You
powerful.
can
Oh, keep going. Yeah, please.
you can even feel it through a call like this. Like
Yes.
I have been on both sides of the spectrum because
Mhm.
I am a coach, but I also hire coaches.
Yes.
And I have increased my prices because
Mhm.
I've noticed my value that I provide. And I've been like,
Mhm.
well, my value is way higher. I'm going to increase my prices. And when I
Mhm.
truly believe that, it's way easier. But I've also had coaches that I've was interviewing to see if they were the right fit for me. And when it came down to the investment I was making into myself, I could tell that they were uncertain about it. And so that was a
Mhm.
complete turnoff. But at the same time, like I'm going to connect you with Jason after this. He's an amazing human being.
Mhm.
Jason told me what the investment was into myself, and the way he said it, I was just like, okay, he knows
Yeah.
that it's worth it. I think I just don't realize it. So let's do this. And it was the best decision I've ever made in my life to this day.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The energetics of pricing, of everything, right? Of the lean in, of the value behind that energetic exchange. It matters. I use this analogy too. Like if someone's like even giving you something for free, like toothpaste, and like, oh, it's like full of chemicals, but here, take it. You're like, it's free and I don't even want it. Like there's
Hmm.
something off here, right? But again, like you were saying, where it's like, even when it's a super, let's say, stretchy price point or energetic exchange, but they're so steadfast in that, you're like, I think I want to meet you there because you feel so clear that that's going to expand me. I want to expand into that. And
Hmm.
that's how it really works is that energetic exchange. So I'm so grateful that That's been your experience too. And how you said too, that's been the greatest investment of your life too. Because for me too, some of those bigger investments where I'm like, what in the world? And I leaned in, I'm like, that is literally the best investment I've ever made in myself. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I met you because of Jason. It was a
Right.
long path, but I met Jason and then I met Jen and then I went to Jen's event and at Jen's event I met you. And now
Exactly.
I'm going to connect you back to Jason and my girlfriend Claudia. And like that
Mhm.
one investment for me or for anyone listening is going to change your life if you let it.
Yes, that's a big one. If you let it. Yeah. So getting your body on board with the investment, that was a big one too. When I was leaning into a big investment, I remember being like, ooh, like at first I was like, no, no, I'm not going to do it. And then I started being like, I actually did a somatic movement where I said, body, if you could tell this story of the fear of this investment, how would you tell it? And I just let like my body looked like a car dealership balloon, total chaos. Like I was just because our body has all the answers and the wisdom is underneath all the energy of the fear. So
Mhm.
like that's a powerful exercise. If you're experiencing fear, let your body tell the story, move the energy. And underneath that, I realized I was like, oh, I can trust myself. I can make this back. Like above all else, I can trust myself. I'm not throwing money away. This is an expander. I can do this. So that's a big one too. Again, normalize it, allow your body to get on board, and then you can really step into an investment that you make, right? Or a receiving of an energetic exchange on both sides of the equation, like you said.
Yeah, I have nothing to add to that. That is perfect.
I love it. All right. Well, you know what I think would be really powerful? So, knowing that you've created this incredibly successful business and that a lot of people that are tuning in have this passion and purpose, they either have the business idea or they're wanting to scale the business idea. I would love to talk about, what did it take from you to get to the business or to kind of, I want to talk about in three phases. What did it take from you to build the business you have today? So, let's start with phase one when we think about ideation, like what did it take from you in the ideation phase where you were like, I think I'm going to create a business. We were just talking about how people, it's almost like the business created itself, but you
Mhm.
had to have the courage to follow it. So let's talk about that stage of the business. And then we'll go into the other stages like scaling, maintaining, but ideation, what did that take from you? Was it like just saying yes, leaning in, trusting?
This is going to take a while to think through, I think. But number one, I think I had to be good at what I was doing.
Yes. Yeah. You're
I had to be
gifted.
able to,
Follow your
yeah,
gifts. Yes.
I had to be able to create a result. After
Yes.
I was able to create a result, I had to be able to replicate the result. After I did that, I had to be able to showcase it and show
Mm-hmm.
other people that, hey, I can bring you from where you are to where you want to be. And then from there, I had to step into fear. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I had to step into accepting people's doubts
Mm-hmm.
and having people poke fun and just not listening to it. I had to
Mm-hmm.
not listen to certain parts of my own thoughts a
Yeah.
lot of the time for a really long time. I still do.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to get comfortable in the uncomfortable. And I think that those are the main things that got me going. And then from there, it was taking on the role of a learner at all times and from every single person. So I was learning from my clients. I was learning from my mistakes. I was learning from other coaches. And anything that somebody said, I would try to learn from. Like even
Mm-hmm.
even if they weren't trying to teach, there was a teaching moment.
So
I
true.
would adapt and pay attention. And I mean, over 6 years, you have a lot of reps. Like you have a lot of time to see what works and what doesn't, do more of what works, test new things and go from there. Gosh, I think that was the beginning.
So powerful. So what I'm hearing you say is I had the fear and I did it anyways. I was letting myself lean into, teachers, mentors, learning like the trade, letting myself, do it for myself first, realize I could get the results, replicate it for someone else, and then replicate it again and again. So you kind of created a process was
Mhm.
what it sounded like. So that ideation phase. And then it sounds like you refined the process as you went too, as you were learning more in every single interaction that you had. So the ideation was like, I have the idea. There's other people that have ideas about my idea. I'm just going to put those on the back burner and I'm going to
Mhm.
follow it anyways and see what happens. And so that's so powerful because I think a lot of people will sometimes stop after other people don't get it, or there's something that goes wrong and they're like, never mind, maybe I wasn't supposed to. You're going to have those moments where something's going to happen and you're going to be like, ooh, I'm going to question it for a second. But there's a deeper knowing that you know you're meant to do it anyways, even when the landing page doesn't work or you don't get as many signups or whatever the stories are or the things are. Above all else, you're like, there's a reason why this is happening and I'm going to keep going anyways. I remember having a launch where I was like copying and pasting my business coach's strategy, and she was making 7 figures doing it. And I was like, if I just do it the way she does it, I'm going to make 7 figures. Let's go. And
Yep.
I copied and pasted and I made $300 in 6 months. And I was like, oh my gosh, this isn't working for me. Like, and I was doing other things on the side, but this was one launch that I was like, if I do it for this one launch. And so thank God I had other things happening in the business that helped me maintain the business. But when I went in for this part and followed that business strategy, that made me $300. And I realized my learning from that was not what she was teaching me, was it above all else with me realizing I have to build it in alignment with my soul, not in alignment with what someone else is telling me to do. I have to connect to, how does my soul want to build it? What will give me the vitality to continue to build and to scale? And so that takes us into the next part of, you think about this business. So what has helped you scale the business? So we talked about like ideation, and now we're kind of talking about scaling. It sounds like there was refinement that happened. Maybe you leaned into mentors. What else was it that you think helped you really scale the business?
Yeah, so scale didn't happen up until a year and a half ago or 2 years
Mm-hmm.
ago, probably closer
Yeah.
to a year and a half. But I it was just me. I was a one-man team for the first like 4.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I did great for the first 2 to 3. And then after
Mm-hmm.
that, that was my peak. And I started going down and down and down. And at that point, I had quit my job. So I backed myself into a corner. Like I
Mm-hmm.
had no place to go. I literally, if anybody knows the phrase burn the boats, um,
Yep.
I burned the boats. I did not want to give myself an out. So I let
Yeah.
my certification and all of my education go in surgery. So I could not get a job there. I have to go
Yeah.
through the entire process again
Oh, wow.
because I
Yeah.
didn't want to do it. And
Yeah.
so I was going down, I was not profitable, and I had never invested in a coach because I was scared. I still had this weird scarcity around money. Um, and I finally invested in a coach a year and a half ago, and nothing worked. That
Mm-hmm.
coach did not help me at all. I spent
Okay. Yeah. We all have one of
$12,000.
those.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I spent $12,000 for, I believe it was 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I did learn, but I learned from my mistake of that investment. I did not learn from that coach.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 months later, I was still going down, except now I was $12,000 poorer. And Jason pops up in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And he said the same things that last coach said, but he said it with that energy that we just talked about. And I was like, well, this
Mm-hmm.
guy seems a little different. I'm going to go for it. And then my life changed. Everything changed
Mm-hmm.
because I realized the power of investing from the first
Yeah.
coach, the one that I didn't learn from because of him. I learned from the mistake. That was still a learning experience.
Yes.
And so then I did more research. I researched Jason. I felt better with him, and everything changed. I've since hired. I created systems. I
Mm-hmm.
grew from a team of one to, I think we have 9 people on the team at
Mm-hmm.
this point, and we're helping people in more ways than I could ever imagine. Because yes, I have a massive education around this, but so does my head coach Kate, that's a registered dietitian, and so does Carissa, Stephen, and Julie, and we all have different education levels and places of education, so we can help people in a much bigger way. So
Mm.
it really came from delegation, swallowing my ego, and trusting that other people can do what I'm doing as good, if not better, and creating systems and processes to repeatedly do the same thing, achieving the same result easier.
Mm. I'm so glad we're having this conversation, the energetic exchange of investing too. And there's a lot here, like the delegation, the hiring, the expanding, but it has to be from a soul aligned space. And
Mhm.
so I do think that there's ways that we learn through polarity, and there's ways that we learn through a loving lens where we're like, yes, this is an alignment, or I'm learning through a polar opposite experience, which is I don't want to lean in anymore in this space.
Yep.
The example I give once, I had a photo shoot and I remember being like, going to buy all these dresses. And I bought it from a website I wasn't really familiar with. So the energy was a little bit like unfamiliar and off, but I was like, I'm going to do it anyway. Something's telling me to do it. So buy all these dresses. I get them shipped to me. And then I read the fine print and it's like absolutely no return. So I'm like, I have thousands of dollars worth of dresses that I don't want and I'm not going to use. But what I learned through that experience was read the fine print like that. Okay, if I'm going to spend money anywhere, that was probably a huge discount on if I hadn't read the fine print of a massive contract down the road.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like, thank God I learned it through a polar opposite experience. But I'm like, you know what? I would rather learn it this way than down the road with a massive contract where I'm partnering with someone and I'm not reading the fine print. And then all of a sudden something massive happens. Right. So again, it's that experience of just realizing like everything is happening for us. And I'm so grateful that I was able to learn the lesson, even if it didn't necessarily feel good in the moment. I got something from it. And now it makes me more in alignment with what my soul wants. Like you were saying, Jason Phillips, like you knew to lean into him because you were like,
Mhm.
he's saying similar things, but his energy is different. And we want to play with people whose energy is in alignment with us because that's the thing that invites us to expand. That's again the safety that they create for all of you to be welcome too. Like I know that Jason creates that for you where you're like, look, I can show up and be having a bad day. I can show up and be having a good day. Either way, he's going to hold me in that space and we're still going to build
Mhm.
something together, which is so powerful. And I know that that's what you do for your clients too. Cause you're like, I'm holding a safe space for you to show up and be like, like I'm so frustrated. And the safe space for them to be like, oh my gosh, I've never felt more vitality. My whole family is expanding through this. Like there's space for all of that. And so I just want to commend you for, all the learnings that you're bringing into this space, but most of all that you're bringing into your life. And now you're just sharing that here for other people to know that a mistake is not really a mistake. It's a learning.
If you're open to it, everything is learning.
Power.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Has anything shifted now as you're maintaining this level of success? I know you were like, okay, I went from ideation, now scaling, and now I'm wanting to maintain. Is there anything else that you're like, that was a learning around maintenance or maintaining this now level of success? And I think we're always still scaling. We're always still wanting to grow and to expand. But is there anything else that comes to mind when you think about maintaining a level of success?
Yeah, we're definitely still growing, but one of the things I've learned is that who I am as a person and who I am in my personal life also has a direct reflection on the health of my business. Um,
Mm,
I think everybody ebbs and flows in how they are in life. And I've had some low points and I've had some high points right now. I'm at one of my highest.
mhm,
And it's no surprise to me that my business is also at its highest because I get to show up as the best version of myself for my team and my clients and my community. And again, here's that energy thing. They can feel that.
mhm,
And so when I show up as Amazing Joe, we have amazing business and amazing growth and amazing maintenance and amazing results, most importantly, because results for clients are everything.
mhm,
Um, but when I show up and I'm low energy or I have a bad mindset, people feel it. No matter how hard I try to trick them, they can feel it. And
mhm,
so I need to take care of myself before I can take care of anything else. And for anybody listening that is like, well, that's a selfish thought, I would actually push back and say it's the most selfless thought because when I take care of myself, I'm the best version of myself. And then I can show up as the best version of myself for my friends, my family, my partner, my business, my coaches, and my clients.
mm. I completely agree. It's not selfish, it's self-love. We have to fill ourselves up if we're going to pour into other people. I cannot pour into another person if my cup is empty. It
Mhm.
just can't do it. So taking that time to really fill myself up allows me to show up differently as a mother, as a business owner, as a partner, as a friend, exactly as you were just saying. So I'm curious, how do you fill yourself up? Like where you show up as the best version of yourself?
Um, a lot of you might guess this coming from a health coach, but number one, I take care of my body. So
Right.
I eat well. I move consistently, whether it's on a workout day or a rest day. I make sure I move my body because as humans, we're not meant to be sedentary.
Mhm.
But the body's only 33%. I also have to take care of my mind. And
Yes.
so every morning when I wake up, I give myself 30 to 45 minutes of not touching my phone to make sure that I'm responding when I wake up and not reacting. So I'll go outside. I'll grab my journal, I'll sit on my patio, and I'll write about three things. Number one, I'll write about my dreams from last night, what I think they
Mm,
mean to me, what I think they're trying to tell me. I'll write
yes.
about what I need to accomplish today to make it a success, both personally and in business, and then what my goals are in life. And that really sets my intention for my day. I'm laser focused. And if you heard me say, it's not just professionally, it's in my personal life. So I write goals of I need to be kind to this person today. I need to reach out to my friend in Georgia. I need to do this for my neighbor because I noticed last week her lawnmower wouldn't start. So I need to go and do that for her and make sure she's good. And if I can do that, I go to bed knowing that I did everything I could to be my best. And then my girlfriend, Claudia, I'm going to connect you guys after, but she has gotten me back into meditation and more
Mm,
into meditation than I ever have been. So we spend time doing that. I wouldn't say nightly because we've kind of fallen off, but almost nightly.
mm,
And that makes a massive difference in my soul, my spirit. And when all of those three things are running on all cylinders, that's when I'm my best.
the body, mind, and spirit. It's so powerful, that combination, because when we're neglecting one, we tend to feel it in the other. Like when we're,
Mhm.
just focusing on the body, but we're not focusing on how do I feel, right? Then it becomes that, hyper awareness of this. That's where my eating disorder came from, where I was so hyper focused
Mhm.
on the body. I forgot about like, what does my soul want? Like, I'm not even like from a mental perspective, is this working for me? And so when we can get all three of those on board, and I love those tactical examples of what that looks like, because it's not like you're like, all day, every day, I'm spending 6 hours a day. Like, you're like, I spend 30 minutes in the morning for myself. I fill myself up and I do these three journaling questions. And then at night before bed, I meditate, whether that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever that looks like. So it sounds like even just an hour, 30 minutes on both ends sets you up for massive success in the middle. And what I love too is that you're not just focusing on business goals, you're focusing on personal goals. How can I give to my neighbor? How can I support her in starting her lawnmower, making sure she's okay? That fills us up so much and allows us to be able to serve in a completely different way. So I'm just so grateful for you bringing that into the space.
I actually want to go back to what you said before because you just brought up a point for me. You
Mm-hmm,
asked why I do this, like what is my fuel? And the two answers I gave before were true.
mm-hmm,
But to be honest with you, I think the reason I do this is so that I can make sure every single person in my circle, like my tight-knit circle of my five closest people, but also the people that I see weekly or monthly, every single one of them is taken care of. I want to be the person so that if something goes south and they don't have the means to do something, I need to make sure that they're good. And that is true for my mom. That is true for my neighbor Jan. That is true for anybody I see. Like if they're in trouble, I want to be able to help them. And so that's a lot of why I do it.
mm. They always say there's like the 5 levels of why. Like there's like the first one, the second one, and then it's like, well, why do you want that? And why do you want that? And why do you want that? So we're getting to that deeper level of why is like because the people that I'm connected to, both energetically, physically, mentally, like I want to support them in a way that has them know that they're so deeply important to me. And in general, that they're so worthy of support. And so
Mhm.
I think that's so powerful. And I love that exercise too of being like, here's my first level of why, here's my second, here's my third. And then I will do that. I will
Yeah.
continue to go in and be like, what is my deeper level of why? You can do this on both ends of the spectrum. Like I've done it for like limiting beliefs, like why. And
Mhm.
I've also done it for like my business. Why. And you'll be shocked at kind of like the last level. I remember when I first started on this journey, I was like doing some things where it was like self-sabotage. And I was like, well, why am I doing that? Why am I doing that? Why am I doing that? And the
Mhm.
deepest level of why was because I don't like myself. And I was like, whoa, this is actually really liberating because that's a problem. And I want to like myself, like that's not going to work for me anymore. So the second we can bring something out of the shadow, it's like it almost liberates us right then and there. And then we know what we can work with. Because the first one is not usually the one that we can really get to the deepest level of like impact. But when we get to that like deepest level, then we're like, okay, well, why don't I start liking myself? Why don't I just connect to like what are 10 things I actually love about myself? Let me start there. And then I started adding to that. And then the list is like 100. And then the list is more. And now I'm like, I
Hmm.
could give you 1,000 right now because I'm just like grateful for myself. And I could give you 1,000 for you, right? Like when we see it within ourselves, we can see it within other
Hmm.
people. So it was just a journey that I went on. So that deeper level of why really does matter. So I'm so glad you brought that into the space and that came through.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that I always like to tell our clients because they need to find their why. I think that whys are like onions. Like there are
Mhm.
absolutely so many layers to them. And
Yeah.
that's what I do. That's like part of our coaching is, hey, why are you here? Like, well, I want to lose weight. It's like, I understand that, but why do you want to lose weight? Like, well, I want to feel better. Okay, why? Internally or externally? Like
Hmm.
internally. Like, okay, why do you need to feel better internally? And like it's stuff that they don't even realize. Like you said, you didn't
Yes.
realize this. And then they
Yes.
do, and they are so lit up to
Yes.
accomplish this goal after.
Yeah. Mm.
So it's not like go eat these calories and go eat this protein. Yes, we do that. But it's a lot deeper too.
Yeah. Yeah. So that brings me to I am so excited and so grateful. So you want to gift someone who's listening 3 months of free coaching, which like when you told me that before we were beginning, I was like, oh my God, it was like Christmas morning. Like, what? Like, oh, that's amazing. So how could someone lean in to, 3 months of free coaching? That would be so powerful for whoever it is that, does lean into their deepest level of why. Because that was a big reason why you said, your team will go through these entries and select it based on their deep level of why. So how can someone do that?
That was a really good transition. So number
I love it.
one, I know we haven't really talked about how we do our coaching or anything like that. But
Mhm.
early in the episode, you stated you're like, yeah, Joe helps women over 40 lose weight and ultimately become their best self. And that's exactly what we do. So we don't do diets. We don't do crazy cardio workouts or workouts every day. We do something that you can enjoy and it's different for everyone. We're going to help you turn it into your lifestyle that you love. And by doing that, you're subconsciously going to create the result you desire. And so, like you just said, I want to give away 3 months of free coaching as a thank you to you and to your audience for spending some time with us today to one audience member. And
Mhm.
we'll need four things. There's going to be a link in the bio. It's going to be your name, your phone number, your email. That's, of course, so I can contact you and tell you you're the winner of 3 months of free coaching. But
Mhm.
lastly, going back to that onion, we
Mhm.
need to know why. And it needs to be a compelling why. It needs to be a true why. And that's how we're going to make the decision. Myself and our coaches are going to dive into every single entry together on a call and figure out who we think deserves to win the free coaching.
Mm.
We're going to contact you and we're going to give you 3 months of free coaching. When you get in there, I'm not going to sell you supplements. I'm not going to sell you any crap you don't need. I'm just going to sell you on why you're actually going to change and how you're going to do it. And in three
Mm.
months, we're going to get as far as we possibly can.
I love it. So I would encourage anyone who's like, ooh, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, but will they choose me? I don't know. Any of the stories that are coming through for you right now, put those on the back burner and just connect to the exercise of your deepest level of why. Maybe you connect to the first one and you're like, interesting. Why do I want that? Why do I want that? And why do I want that? If you can go even 5 layers of why, you're going to find your deepest why. And that's going to be the reason why Joe and his team is like, this person has to be here because they're going to deeply impact humanity when they can fully connect to their most vitality or their most like vital self, right? Or whatever that deep level of why is. So I would just encourage you to any limiting beliefs, put those in the back burner and just start to connect with your why and share that with Joe. And please reach out to me when you win. And I want to hear how it goes because I know it's going to be so transformative. I've seen these before and after pictures, and I'm not just looking at bodies. I'm seeing like, I see like spirits, like I see their whole like soul lit up when I'm looking at these pictures. Like they're happy, their aura is big and bright, and just like there's just so much vitality moving through them. And you're just witnessing just the difference in energy. And that's what I witness when I see your before and after pictures. So Joe, thank you so much for being here, for all the wisdom that you sprinkled in the space. I am positive that people are going to want to connect with you. So, where are you hanging out? How can people connect with you?
Yeah, I think that the easiest place to find me would just be to search my name. So it's probably somewhere in the title or the show notes. It's Joe
Mhm.
Hoye, Hoye. And Facebook or Instagram is where I spend the most time. That's where you can spend the most time with me. My goal there is just to kind of have fun, really to educate and get people the result they want, but also to break beliefs and tell you that you can accomplish whatever the hell it is you want. Um, but I want to just take a second and thank you because
Mm.
you're the one that brought this group of people together so that as a team, you and I can help them and share a message that we both firmly believe in. So thank you.
Mm. You're so welcome. And thank you for just being your authentic self, not just here, but everywhere. Like I knew that from the second that I met you. So I'm just so grateful that you're shining your light so brightly. And I think that's been such a beautiful thing that you've cultivated within yourself by just being like, you know what? I'm going to choose me. Even when no one else gets it, I'm just going to keep shining. I'm just going to keep going. And that's magnetic. So thank you so much for being here. And for everyone that's tuning in, we would love to know your greatest takeaway. So feel free to take a screenshot, tag both of us. I am at Christina Deering, and you just heard from him too, his Instagram handle. So feel free to just lean in, tag us, and we would love to know your biggest takeaways. We create content for you. I'm not doing it for me. I know Joe's not doing it for him. We're doing it for you, whatever it is that's going to support you the most. So share your biggest takeaways. That allows us to really create more and more that's in alignment. So thank you so much for spending your most precious resource with us, your time. And until next time, we're sending you so much light and love.